Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. That's it. All you got to do is hit a button, and we are live. We're doing this thing. I'm so excited. If I can make it through this introduction, this will be a success. It'll be a rocket ship. It's like launching the space shuttle. We will just launch, or in a SpaceX, we'll just be launched. The person I'm talking to is so cool. I can't wait to introduce you to her. She is not only there's so many things. Okay, I just gotta go through these things. She over 20 years of B2B marketing and sales experience. The sales part is so key, understanding the side of the sales, and that is really tied into ABM. She's spent so much of her time building up the world. To the ABM that we know of has had so much to do with her. In fact, Engagio has even called her one of the prophets of profit. And she's the author of Account-Based Marketing. The subtitle is How to Target and Engage the Companies That Will Grow Your Revenue. Can we learn something from her? Yes, we can. That is exactly what we need to talk to. But not only that, beware, be careful. She has completed an Ironman. I guess it makes her Iron Woman, and I would not want to mess with her. And she just literally came from a CrossFit workout right before this podcast and still has energy. I don't even know what to do. Again, the interview keeps going. Speaker, evangelist, formerly of Demand Based, where she was the VP Customer Experience. Now she's an ABM Strategist to the stars. Jessica Fewless, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Man, there's a lot of things in there. I like to summarize. That's the summary. That's me boiling it down. So you're kind of a busy person.
I think you did a good job.
Well, thanks. Well, let's get into this thing. It's our marketing leadership series, and we are talking ABM with a person who wrote the book. There's all sorts of misconceptions and bogus things out there. So what I want to do here, and this is heavy for me, but it probably won't be for you. Okay, here you go. Thor's handle. Got it? There's a handle.
I like it.
Okay.
Grab it.
Whoa. Single-handedly grab Thor's hammer like you've used it before. Smashing, lead myths, I'm sure. Take Thor's hammer, smash for me some kind of marketing strategy, misconception, a myth, something that's out there that's just driving you crazy. Set the record straight once and for all.
Yes. My favorite one is you can't buy your way into an ABM strategy.
Can't buy your way.
I know. It's a big one. And even when I was at Demand Based, which is an ABM technology provider, I went on probably 200 plus sales calls. So pre-sales with my sales reps, and said to the company that they were trying to sell to, first you have to have a strategy, then you buy the technology to enable it.
Yes.
You got to have that strategy first. So important.
My gosh.
So that would be the big one.
And what's crazy? It's like, here you are at an actual technology trying to warn people against this. Why do people fall into this trap? And then what ends up happening to them when they don't heed your warning?
Yeah. So sales reps can be very, very compelling. There's also, I think, as marketers, we tend to get the kind of shiny object syndrome, right?
Yes.
We're like, ooh, here's the new thing that's going to really help me shine as a marketer, right? And, there are things out there that are really, really great that are coming out. Intent is starting to mature. And I think that's going to be really, really important for B2B marketers to leverage, and sales reps as well, right? And we can dig into that a little bit more, kind of as we go along here. But, a lot of companies went, ooh, intent, I have to buy it. And they went and bought it, whatever vendor.
Yeah.
And then they went, oh shit, now I don't know what to do with it. Right. Because there's all these intent signals coming in, and it's like, well, great. If I react to them instantaneously, I'm never going to get another campaign off the ground, because things are changing constantly. Right. Totally. So, intent was the latest one that it was like, whoa, slow your roll, people. You got to have a strategy for how you're going to use it before you go ahead and buy it.
I literally just dodged that same bullet recently, where the intent conversation came up, and it's like, should we do this coming quarter? And it was like, it's almost like I could see you foreshadowing for us that, okay, cool, you have all this data. what are you going to do with it? How are you going to actually
Yep.
use it? And I said, okay, let's push that off to Q4 so we can have a strategy for it and just really have the time to really be able to address it. Not just, great, now we have 9 different, you got intent, you got this, you got that, you got marketing automation, you still haven't done nurtures for. What are you going to do? Right. It's like you're putting the
Yeah.
cart before the horse.
Yep. And I'm actually working with a client right now who the CMO has been looking at all sorts of different technologies and stuff. And he just didn't want to pull the trigger because he's like, I don't have a strategy yet. And so, but the head of sales was like, he had heard about demand base and he was like, we need to have it. We need to have it. And the CMO was like, but we don't have a strategy for it. So anyways, so they brought me in to kind of help smooth the waters there and develop a pilot, kind of ease our way into it so that by 2021, yes, they'll have a full-fledged ABM strategy. And yes, they will probably buy some sort of ABM platform to help them manage it. But right now in the pilot phase, like you got to figure out what works, what doesn't, and kind of the mechanics of it before you start investing in technology.
What a perfect thing. Like that CMO, you got to introduce me to him after it. What a wise person. Like that gut feeling that says, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this thing. I don't have it. My answers aren't there yet for these questions. I need those answered first. Meanwhile, you got other people who are like, pull the trigger. I heard this thing was really cool. Or I went to their
Yeah.
booth, at an event and I got a really cool swag. So these guys must be awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's like, hold on a second. What do we, and then talking to you about it, you'd be the person to talk about it. Like, yeah,
Right.
there's probably a million people out there saying that, but I would trust if I would ask you, okay, no, you wrote the book on it. Help me out here. What do we do here? Makes total
Yeah.
sense. Question. Yep. Where does intent fit in the ecosystem with ABM? Is that the same thing? Is it different? Are they complementary?
They're absolutely complementary.
Okay.
And I think intent should be informing your strategy. So what I mean by that is, it all starts with the target account list, right? And building the right target account list. And so, and when people are starting out, a lot of them will say, hey, well, we want to break into, say, healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And so, they're like, we want to go after all the healthcare companies. And you're like, okay, so first of all, great. Just because they're in healthcare doesn't mean that they want to buy from you, right? And just because they're in healthcare doesn't mean you want to sell to them. So, it's really important to come up with that ideal customer profile. What does that ideal customer look like? What does the customer that's successful for you look like? When I was at Demand Base, we quickly figured out that there was a certain threshold of revenue below which companies just weren't successful with us. The marketing team was too small, the sales team was too small, right? So from our kind of ideal customer profile, we removed anybody under that revenue threshold, right? Because they just weren't renewable. I think a lot of companies forget about the renewability, right? They're just like, we need to bring in all this revenue.
Right.
Cool. But the investors are looking at renewability and the renewal rate and net retention rate. So it's really important to look at both sides when you're figuring out what your target account list should look like. And intent plays in there because now let's say you come up with a list of, I don't know, 2,000 companies that fit your ideal customer profile, are of that renewable sector.
Yeah.
But let's say you're a smallish company and you only have 20 sales reps. They can't focus on 2,000 accounts, right? Like that's just going to be way too big. Yeah. So now you take intent to figure out who's in market, right? And now you can start to narrow that list down. All 2,000 you eventually want to sell to, right? But who's in market now? Who is researching, the keywords that, trigger your product, that relate to your product? And those are the accounts that you should focus on first. Those should be your first tier accounts and then go from there.
All right, let's dive into this because when I first heard about this, my thought was almost that like intent was the anti-strategic. Like I'm trying to be strategic and picking these ICPs from my own existing customer success information and the revenue, like you're talking about, really interesting. And then in comes this intent thing. And it's like, well, I don't want to be, blowing with the wind. I want to go after the industries that are successful, but you're saying it informs it. I love that you said that it's informing the ABM and informing the ICP. Do I then draw a comparison that like is maybe there like a certain industry that's all in market and then I go after them, or is it just literally picking out certain accounts that are in market?
I think generalizing to an industry is going to be tough.
Okay.
But because yes, intent is one way, but let's not forget about all the ways that we've always had intelligence around these accounts, right? Understanding, hey, was there a major, governmental regulation that just came down that's going to impact a certain industry that your product can solve for, right? So there's still going to be that kind of information out there that we shouldn't ignore, right? And sales reps are great on picking up on that stuff. And so really having that tight connection with the sales team is going to be important, in developing kind of any kind of strategy, right? So those kind of big picture things should be handled first. Intent is where you start to really refine that target account list.
Got it. So you might, to your point, you might have many, many, many on this list, and you're like, which one we can only pick 50, or we can only pick 20 or 5.
Right.
Okay, which ones should we pick? It'd be great to know that, well, 20 of them on your list they're in it right now. They're looking at it right now. Perfect. Let's focus on those because they're not only the target, but they're also looking.
Yeah. And let's say you have, 5 different product lines. The intent data is also going to tell you which of your product lines they're actually interested in.
Right.
Right. And so now you know how to market to them because, one of the things that, a lot of people do is they're like, great, we've got a target account list. Now we're just going to market to it. But, you've missed some of the beauty of account-based marketing if you don't take that opportunity to then segment that list and personalize to that list. Right. And so the intent data will help you with that segmentation. So what's most relevant to each one of those accounts in your target account list.
Right. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I think we all are guilty of this knee jerk. Okay, got my account list. Whew, that was hard. I want to come back around to how do you actually maybe start there. How do we get that ICP? Maybe just the ground rules. You've written the book. Before you can pass go and collect $200, what are the ground rules for getting the ICP? And then second, how do you avoid just marketing to them?
Yep. So as far as the ICP goes, it really needs to be a tough conversation between marketing and sales and your customer experience or customer success team, right? It needs to be all 3 need to be involved in the conversation. And like I said, it's going to include things like revenue bands. It's going to include potentially industries, right? You're not going to be relevant to everybody. So what industries are you most relevant to? There were things like, what does that company's tech stack look like? Do they have a CRM? Do they have, a marketing automation solution? If they don't have those things, they're not going to be ready to buy an ABM platform, right? So, it's going to be things like that are, going to be specific to each company. I mean, I think, and like I said, then working with post sales to kind of vet the ICP to go, okay, are there, and leveraging the data. You have lots of data. So understanding, where does it break down? If you have, renewal rates are really high, for companies over $1 billion, and it's, from 1 billion to, 500 million, you come down, 2 or 3 percentage points. Below 500 million, you come down 10 percentage points. Well, that should be a red flag for everybody, right? And so you need to take that stuff into account. There's also going to be other things. There's going to be usage data, probably if you're a SaaS company, that will also tell you kind of what works and what doesn't, as far as the renewability goes, right? If there's certain sectors that leverage, the stickiest parts of your product, and others that don't, right? That should also be taken into account as to who is a good fit for you.
Right. If someone takes, say an industry that seems to have been successful in the past, and they take the size metrics that seem to have been successful in the past, and some of these signals like technology they do or don't have, is that the basis for that, or is there anything missing in that? Do they need to think about anything else?
I think that's probably the best place to start, right? Because you have known data, right? Now, if you're a brand new company starting out, you're like, okay, we're going to give this a whirl. We built this product. We think it's perfect for these kinds of people. And you're going to try and start to sell to them. And then you refine that ICP over time. As you start to get data, as you start to know what works, what doesn't, you know, that ICP. And it needs to be constantly refined year over year. Right? Because market conditions change. Like I said, if suddenly you sell to governmental agencies and something's changed, right? You need to be aware of that and you need to take that into account.
Right. Love this. This is practical. This is tactical. Like a lot of people just like, oh, ABMers magic, go do it. And you're like, okay, I'm not even sure. But one of the things you brought up, which tied into a question I was actually asked recently and didn't necessarily know what a good answer would be. You mentioned that if you have a brand new product, you don't necessarily know, you don't have necessarily the data to prove it. It ties into a question I've been asked where a company was looking at the whales, like looking at the company they want to be, and they've had a few customers that are the ones they would like to have more of, but it's not like they're the ones they had like one success with that particular type, that industry and size. And they're like, that was a bigger ACV, bigger deal than we've ever had before. We want more of that. Is there danger in doing that? Or is that okay if you're new or you don't have that data?
I think you have to be careful, right? When it comes to that, because just because you want to sell to somebody doesn't mean they want to buy from you. Right. Just because somebody wants to buy from you, you may not want to sell to them. Right. So you have to keep those two things in mind, because let's say, and this is where, I've talked to some companies and they were like, we want to do an ABM pilot with 5 accounts. And I'm like, right. But we have to be very careful in which 5 accounts we pick, because what if all 5 of them, just because you want to sell to them, they're the biggest in your sector that you want to go after. What if they all just sign 3-year deals with your competitors?
That's a good point.
So why are you going to try to sell to them right now? Flag them as an account that you want to start marketing to 2 years from now. There's stuff you can do to just kind of keep the company name front and center, kind of keep that awareness high. But there's no point in spending good money on them, at this point, because they're not going to be able to buy from you for 3 years. So
it's like being realistic with your list too, and not just trying to batten down the doors. They're not going to change mid contract. So yeah. And I've heard the caution of don't have too many in the one-to-one category. It sounds like we also need to make sure we don't have too few. So is 5 even too few for the smallest company? You probably should, widen your horizon just a little bit.
Well, and quite honestly, for smaller companies, they need to build momentum. Right?
Okay.
A small company just going after whales, that's a risky maneuver, right? Because they need to build momentum. They need to get, their product installed in as many new logos as they can, so they can start to cultivate those relationships, start to understand their product, and start to inform how their product is built, for the customers that they're selling to make sure that they have reference customers. Right. Just going after, the Fortune 100 as a brand new company, that's a pretty risky move.
Do you pepper some into your ABM, some home runs, or should you be more conservative with that, you think?
Yeah, I think, I think most companies are going to have a strategic sales function, right?
Yeah.
And yes, they're going to focus on the one-to-one, but I would definitely make that triangle more bottom heavy, right? So you've got one-to-one at the top, kind of one to few in the middle and one to many at the bottom.
Right.
For a bigger company or for a smaller company just starting out, that one to many needs to be a much bigger portion of their sales and marketing efforts than to one-to-one. As they mature, as they start to hit that 100, 200, 300 customer mark, now you can start to focus more on the one-to-one. And honestly, the one-to-one it is okay for new customer acquisition, but it's better for when you get a new customer that you've only got a small fraction of the share of wallet in there, and you want to build and grow within that customer. That's when one-to-one, I think, is the most valuable, because you're in there.
Oh, okay.
You've got some insights into that company. You know what their major business challenges are. You're building trust with them because you've already gotten in there with a product. And now marketing and sales can work together to build a very specialized kind of expansion plan for that customer.
Interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way or heard it, where we're thinking of the one-to-ones as the existing customers that we're trying to land and expand with. I was almost like I always just assumed it was net new.
Yeah, no, I think it's I mean, you can use it for net new, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been talking to some folks over in Sweden. They
Me
wrote a
too.
book called Mega Deals.
I just
Have
talked to
you?
him.
Oh
Christopher.
my God, I love Christopher. So
Shout out
he
to
and I have
Christopher.
been, hey Christopher, what's up? But yeah, so they wrote a book called Mega Deals. Now he and his two business partners, Bora and David, have built a whole business around it, right? And
Right.
helping companies land these mega deals. And when they're talking mega deals, they're not talking $1 million deals. They're
Right.
talking $1 billion deals, which is just, whew, that's huge. But, you know, the discipline that goes into that kind of business, you know, is just incredible. And,
Right.
you know, the sales reps who sell those kinds of deals, they have like a 70% win rate because they're just very selective about who they're going after and making sure
Yes.
that the ICP is spot on, right? That they know in their hearts, this is a perfect customer for them, not pie in the sky, but they've actually done the research and they're like, no, this is actually a perfect fit for us. And we're going to go after it.
Right. And you have
Yeah.
specific like pain point case studies that a customer just like them have just had some success, and you're like, this is a no-brainer. This is like
Yeah.
a layup almost, that we know
Yeah.
you guys, we know your profile. We can help you right now. Not like maybe we could play in their
Yeah.
league.
Yeah, no. And I mean, the vast majority of companies, I would say probably 95% of companies in the world don't have that kind of function. They're not going to sell those kinds of deals, right?
Right.
So that's a very specialized skill.
Yeah.
But it's only for a small percentage of the companies out there. Most people are selling in the, you know, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. That's the vast majority of their deals.
Right.
Right. And so that's why one-to-one is definitely going to be more of a, because they don't have the resources to dedicate that many resources to acquiring those companies.
Right.
But once they get them, then they can do the one-to-one to expand within them.
Oh,
Does
makes
that?
total sense. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I love
Okay,
that.
good.
And it's funny, what a coincidence that you mentioned someone in Sweden. And of course, it's, Mr. Engelman is the man. My
Yes.
brain was smoking after that podcast,
I
smoking.
know.
And I knew I had like an iceberg tip of conversation. And he kept referring me to like videos, which I need to go watch before I talk to him again. He's like, I'll talk to
Yeah.
you again. I'm like, okay, I need to watch your analytics training videos before I get on the call with you again. They're
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I was on their podcast
Oh, nice.
and they're just yeah, they're a pretty thoughtful set of the three guys, and they're just out of control. And just marketing, sales enablement is kind of the trio that they bring to it.
Yeah.
And it's a brain trust.
Totally. It makes me feel like a caveman, but I am glad he's there to make fire in my
Right.
cave to cook my meat. it's
I like it.
awesome. Show me how to do
Yeah.
it. Hey, how do I use that flint and steel over here? Ugh, and he's like, oh, let me show you this analytics and all these things.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. My brain is smoking with you too. I feel like we've got, the start it's been kindling, and I'm already excited here. So let's take the next step. We've talked about the ICP, how important it is, and some of the things we need to look for with that. How do we avoid that thing you mentioned earlier where I've got my list,
Yeah.
and let's just blast them spam now. Like,
Yeah.
same old.
Yeah. It's I don't know if it's an avoidance more than it's being intentional about your ABM strategy and really truly understanding the power of ABM. I mean, it's like I said, I've been talking about this for 7 years with companies, and yes, you have to have a list, and now it's segmenting that list, right? And the scary part for most marketers is when you start to segment it. I mean, everybody's always talked about top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel,
Yeah.
But I don't know that marketers really internalized what that meant or how they can really impact the sale at that stage. They're like, we're going to put this piece of content that's good for bottom of the funnel. And then they marketed that, kind of
To everyone.
Yeah, and they would do a nurture campaign. Okay, here's our top of the funnel piece. We're going to send that out first,
Yep.
and then we're going to send out our middle of the funnel next and bottom of the funnel last. Right? And that, we can be better, right? We can be smarter.
Is there something wrong with that, or is there something more from that?
It's heading in the right direction.
Okay.
But don't do it blindly.
Okay.
We need to do it with more intention. We have more data. And here's where marketing really needs to partner with sales, right? And this is, there's a lot of change management that typically will go into this, because if you ever how many sales reps do you know that are religious about moving things from, stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4 to stage 5 in Salesforce? Very few.
Right.
But if you can explain to them and show them that if they take the time to do that, here's how marketing is going to mirror that, right? Top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel, right? So we know that when it's in stage 1, they're still pretty top of funnel. They still need to be sold on the fact that they even have a problem, right? And that, don't be talking features and functions about the product yet, right?
Right.
But when they get to stage 2, maybe you start talking a little bit more, and this is the air cover that you're providing to your sales team. They're talking to 1, 2, maybe 3 people in the company. There's another 8 stakeholders, right? So you should be advertising to them. You should be posting on social media. You should be, sending out marketing automation types of campaigns, but at the same time, partnering with your sales team to mirror their conversation, working with the SDRs. The SDRs are so crucial to any ABM strategy. And yes, that's definitely more top of funnel, but making sure that if you send an email via marketing automation, they've got their playbook of what to do next, right? They're making the phone call. They have a script. They send an email. If they're still getting, blanked by the customer, what's next, right? And marketing should be helping them with all of that, not hoping they make it up on their own.
Right.
So, I think that kind of stuff is really important. And, like I said, we need to focus on the entire funnel, not just top of funnel. And so, understanding, hey, when something goes to, say, stage 3, and I know everybody's stages are different, but if it goes to stage 3 and that's the proposal stage, your message had better be different from a marketing perspective than it was when it was in stage 1. If not, just don't even bother. Right? Because you should be talking about the ROI of your product. Because now they've got the proposal, that's potentially going to be a sticker shock phase, right? But you should talk about, hey, yes, this is an investment, but it's an investment in your success. And here's how we're going to help you. And, you're going to see ROI on this inside of a year. And so it doesn't even matter. Just forget about the sticker price, just pay it and we'll make you successful. Obviously that's a little pie in the sky, but you get the point.
Totally get your point too, because I think we can be too obsessed in marketing with our cute nurturers that do early, mid, late stage content. And we're not tying into the fact that sales is indicating what stage many of these people are in. These all have open opportunities, and sometimes they are doing it, because they're going to get hit by their sales manager for where things are at. But either way, you have some kind of data there that you could tie into that would be way more accurate than guessing based on lead score that I think this person's new. Maybe they're 200 plus and they're middle, I guess. No, okay, they're in this stage, or we just sent the proposal sent, or in legal. What does that mean? How can we support that? Don't say anything, say something, being like ROI. You're right. There's a lot of opportunity that's there.
Yeah. And I think marketing automation was kind of a crutch for a lot of marketers. I think we need to, I know Sydney Sloan over at SalesLoft, CMO over there. Yeah. She's great. And SalesLoft has been typically seen as kind of a sales enablement tool. SDR teams use it for kind of their outbound communications. She actually leverages it for all marketing as well. So
SalesLoft? She uses SalesLoft for all of it?
They don't even have a marketing automation solution.
Oh, and heresy.
Right? But I think it gets away from that leveraging marketing automation as a crutch, right? Like,
Right.
I
Sure.
can't tell you how many conversations I've had where it's like, oh, but we have this nurture going on, but if we send out this email, it's going to interrupt our nurture, or they're going to get 3 emails in 1 week, and what do we do about that?
Sure.
Like, I just
Yeah.
got to say death to the nurture. I think nurtures are
Whoa.
a thing in the past. Is that another myth buster? Like,
Oh
do we
my
get the
gosh.
Thor
So
hammer for that one?
you just needed to warm up a little bit. Like guns blazing, death to nurture.
Yeah. I don't love them. I
Tell,
think they just get in the way of good marketing.
tell me about it. But wouldn't you set a nurture up to address people in the different stages, or is that like a
You
something?
could, and
Yeah.
but what I've seen it be more effective is honestly at the SDR function. So nurtures with leveraging a tool like an outreach or a sales loft, right? They connect it into, say, intent signals that they're getting from their intent provider.
Yeah.
And they set up nurtures that way because they come from the SDR. So they look more personal. They tend to get better
Yeah.
open rates and that kind of thing. Plus, they can personalize. So both of those tools allow them to, even though there's a nurture, they can personalize any portion of it before it
Yeah.
goes out. Key to an ABM strategy, personalization, right? You have to make sure that the message is personal. And, in a general marketing automation solution, it's like personalize their company, their first name, like there's not a ton of real personalization that happens. But in those solutions, yes, it's more manual, but that's why you have an ABM strategy. You have a focused set of accounts that's manageable so that your SDRs can do the research, understand their buyers, and make sure that the messages that go out are personalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You bring up a good point. I gotta say, nurtures, they're a little catch-all. They're not nearly as timely, spacing out your email every week, to just having a simple rule that says this stage is reached, send this one piece of content out. It doesn't need to be a whole nurture series. Just like we know that when people are
yeah.
negotiating, they should see this, send it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's simple and straightforward. And yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
whew.
Death to
I need to take a
nurtures. You
break
heard it
after
here.
that.
Death to this, murder that. Anything else you should kill in marketing while we're at it?
Well, I do think the one other thing we need to do is we need to rethink the customer marketing function.
Okay.
I would say 90% of companies are doing it wrong. And it's by no fault of their own, right? Like customer marketing has always been seen as this advocacy function, right? Getting case studies, getting speakers for conferences and webinars and those sorts of things, references that the sales reps can use.
Right.
That's typically been the function of customer marketing. And largely that's been because the sales reps have been the squeaky wheel saying we need more of this type of stuff so we can sell more. And B, CMOs have not been compensated on renewals. They've been compensated on new business, right? So that's where they focus their customer marketing resources.
I see.
And yeah. So I think we need to rethink that function. I think CMOs need to start being compensated on renewal rates and net retention rates, and then we'll start to see a difference. Now, I think COVID-19 has actually helped with that shift because a lot of companies were going, okay, for the next few quarters, acquiring new business is going to be really hard, right? Because there's all this economic uncertainty. There's companies that are doing layoffs. There's all these different things going on. So people aren't going to be super excited to commit to a year contract right now.
Right.
That being said, we need to put all hands on deck to save and grow, if we can, as much of the business that we currently have, right? So I've talked to a number of companies that have started to make that shift, but it's been a somewhat superficial shift. I think now we need to really build a good practice around customer marketing as a revenue function and focused on, renewal and retention and net retention.
Yeah. What I like about this is that it's like there's a surface problem, but you've dug beneath it. The root cause is that marketing isn't incented on yes, we cover that whole process and we talk about how important it is, but at the end of the day, sales is the incentive right now, and we got to really make sure they're happy. So that's why customer marketing is all these gadgets and gizmos that are fine and can really help sales out. But there's so much other opportunity for for marketing, for helping customers be ongoing successful, or continuing to be successful and increase their usage of the tool and all these other things that would keep a customer longer. But we're just not focused on it. And I wrote down this quote I came to mind of the idea of where focus goes, energy flows. Probably Tony Robbins or something. But like nothing,
Right.
nothing makes nothing makes focus like an incentive or your goals being tied to that. So if nobody's goals are tied to renewals, or some little department with cobwebs at the end of the hall then it's not part of the overall plan. Yeah.
So it's I think I've often said, like, your customer list is actually the original target account list, right? So you can apply all the same principles of account-based marketing to your customers. And actually, your hit rate is going to be a lot higher from a marketing perspective because you know a lot more about your customers than you do about your prospects. You make a lot of guesses about your prospects, but you know your customers. You know their renewal date. You probably have a customer success manager or an account manager that really understands their business challenges, right? And so, plus you've already got momentum because you're in there, right? So, there's a lot of things that marketing can, take from all that, all the usage data, right? To build different campaigns focused on all these different, all the different companies you have and customers you currently have, and be really personalized in the way you reach out to them.
Love that. Maybe build some nurtures.
Funny. No, but like customer marketing should actually come in when we were talking about the stages of the sales cycle. When you get to stage 5 and you just need to have the final signature.
Yeah.
Customer marketing should take over then and start talking about and making the company feel good about all the ways that, your company is going to make them successful. Start pitching the different resources you have for them, right? Introduce your customers
before they've signed.
That just, gives them that extra bit of confidence that you're going to be the right business partner for them.
Yeah. It kind of assumes the close a little bit, but also tells them what's on the other side of that cliff. It's not like death and nobody knows what happens when you go over there. No, let's tell you all about what happens when you sign that thing.
Yep.
Here are the different things that we're going to roll up for you. We're excited to do it. That's cool.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. I don't know if this is a cheeky question, but I'm just dying to ask you because you have so much experience with it. Do you have any really cool one-to-one marketing tactics, like how you wow the one-to-one type relationship? I know you mentioned it was like a relationship earlier. I don't know if there's anything that what are the best ways? This kind of goes on that original topic of don't just email them, don't just send your like, how do you treat your one-to-ones different than your few and your many?
Yeah, I mean, if you're really doing one-to-one right, each customer, each company is a market of one. And so everything you do is 100% personalized for them, right? So now that doesn't mean that you have to necessarily create all this net new content for them, but you don't invite them to your webinar on XYZ topic, right? Because that's for the masses. You market that webinar specifically to them, right? Cool. And it's just for them. And, so yes, it's extra resources to do the webinar a second time, but it's basically the same content, but you can tweak it to speak their language, use their vernacular. They're already a customer, so you need to you want to reference that type of stuff, right? So, webinars, I mean, still people do on-site lunch and learns, right? If you're going to do a piece of collateral that you want to send them, it better have their logo on it. It better, like I said, speak their language, talk in their terms. There should be one marketer, one sales rep, one customer success manager as a team focused on that company.
Yeah. Wow. Don't invite them to the thing that you invite everyone to.
Yeah. Make them feel special.
Yeah. Suppress them.
Once again, it's personalization.
Yeah.
It's just, It's so, so important.
It really is, right? It's got a buzzword, but it really, the heart of it is personalization to the most degree, to the biggest degree.
When you're doing one-to-one, it's to that specific company. Getting back to customers, I mean, why people invite their customers to a product launch webinar that they send to prospects is beyond me, right?
Yeah.
The webinar for prospects is going to be more high level, introducing them to the company, but also to the product. To your customers, they know who you are, right? The message should be, once again, most of the slides are going to be the same, but the message should be, hey, here's how we're adding to your investment that you've already made in us, right? Here's some new features that are available to you, right? Those sorts of things. So it should, once again, not a lot of work to personalize it for the customers, but it should be done. It's lazy marketing if you don't.
Yeah, that unlocks some of the real power of ABM, is that ultimate personalization.
Yeah.
I'd love to receive a piece of collateral with my logo on it, not just like dropped in a blank spot on there, but you're like, wow, they really designed that cover for me. That's impressive.
Right.
And then all the content just
Yeah.
reflects that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Where do you see this going? What's the future of all this? Does it have another branded name? Does it have another buzzword? Or
So, I think, because I've had this conversation, especially with people over in the UK, because they've been talking about account-based marketing for a lot longer than we have over here in the States. Yeah, but it was really the one-to-one ABM is what they focused on. And so that was actually a unique challenge to go over there and explain and get them to understand that account-based marketing is more than just one-to-one, right? It's the one-to-few and the one-to-many, right? But the folks over in the UK said, but they're like, but that's just good marketing. And it's like, you're right, but we needed to give it a name to get everybody to shift their thinking, right? Because I even said in an article probably 3 years ago, I'm like, in 5 years, nobody's actually going to talk about ABM. It's just going to be the way B2B marketers go to market.
Right.
So
we got 2 years left.
Right. So my book lives for 2 more years, and then after that it's irrelevant. But I mean, I do think it is just good marketing. And, 10 years ago, we didn't have the tools to do this. So we were doing the best with what we had 10 years ago.
Right.
But now we've got new tools. We talked about intent a little bit earlier. You're seeing a lot of consolidation in the marketplace in the different tech vendors. Sure. And basically what we're getting to is like the Uber ABM platform that's going to manage all of your marketing, right? It's going to inform your marketing. There's going to be analytics. It's going to feed all of your other technologies based on, once again, different segmentation, stages in the sales cycle, those sorts of things, where they are from an intent perspective. And it's going to feed all of your other technologies. Yes, your marketing automation solution, but your chat solution, right? Your website personalization solution, your advertising solution. It's going to feed all of those from one ABM platform.
Right. All tied into Salesforce. Right?
Well, Salesforce, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Because Salesforce is that universal language between sales and marketing. Right. And so absolutely, as we talked about earlier, that's kind of the linchpin to making all this work, is that sales feeds information into it, marketing feeds information into it. Right. And then it flows through the ABM platform to kind of inform your strategy.
Wow. I could see that being next level, right? Level that is where you combine the getting the email out with the timeliness, the signal inputs, signal inputs from sales, the signal inputs from intent vendors, from your website.
Yeah.
And then you're taking all those signals and you're deciding whether it's a nurture, whether it's a immediate action, or I could actually, let's go build it. Let's do it.
I mean, imagine if you didn't even have to trigger any of that stuff. It just happened automatically. And based on all the signals, it would automatically trigger an email, change the advertising they're getting, personalize the homepage when they show up at your website, and it all happens automatically. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
Without setup, you
would set it up. Okay. It's like a set it and forget it. But the signals would flow, and then it would move the companies.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah,
you would out of different segments.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could just plug in different signal sets and have it, do some basic logic and maybe feed a little AI into that mix and have it
Gotta
figure out
love the
what worked.
AI.
And yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
wow. I can see that being, yeah, I think you're the first person I've talked to in a long time where when talking about the future, you've painted a picture. And I think it's because of your history with Engagio and Demand Base and ABM, and obviously the book, that I can actually picture what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's more responsive than marketing automation. It was great to pick up website clicks and basic scoring off of engagement, but like you could
Absolutely.
take that to the next level. How about sales? Are they engaging with sales? Are they engaging with at the end of the day though, we're going to need sales to log some stuff in there, you know?
We are. And the other thing too is sales reps, you know, their careers mature, usually they get better at this, but they tend to be like, oh no, absolutely, this account's going to close this quarter. What if you could have a dashboard that would say, they're not showing intent signals,
Well,
they're not showing engagement signals that map to that. So
right.
we might want to rethink that, right? And so now the marketing data actually informing sales strategy. How
Yes.
about that?
Yeah. And vice
That's
versa.
exciting.
And then if everyone's getting something out of it, we're gonna put something into it. We're gonna put our efforts into it.
Yep.
That'd be a cool app. That would be
Yep.
cool. Yeah.
Like I said, with the consolidation happening, it's like IDG buying Triblio, and I know Terminus has bought Sigster and a couple of
Yeah.
others. So they brought Brightfunnel a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Demand Base just buying Engagio. It's happening. It's just a matter of time and who's going to get there first.
Especially the Engagio thing when that happened recently, and
Mm-hmm.
John Miller's nurture campaign emailed me. The man himself emailed me on the eve of his acquisition.
Yes, absolutely.
Saying that the acquisition happened. I'm like, oh, yep, things are moving around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for marketing though to get to that level of personalization, because it feels better as a customer for the more personalized things are. It just feels good.
It does. And it's like, I don't know how many people got listening to this got marketing degrees in undergrad or even grad school, but I did. And all you learned about was B2C marketing. Like I had no concept that there was B2B marketing, right? And now I'm hearing more and more that, universities are starting to teach B2B. And I think B2B is actually becoming the place where it's at. Like B2C was always seen as like the sexy place to market. I don't know. I think B2B is getting there. I think
100%.
B2B is where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah. B2C is that commoditized, little brain click like, oh, I running shoes. I need to get, okay, great.
And then they follow you for, 3 months online.
And you have good Instagram photos. It seems so like it's like the back of the brain, right? Where it's like, yeah, I can trigger your lizard brain to want to get these shoes because you want to look like that rock star you just saw 900 times on Instagram. So it'll eventually get to you. Like Instagram ads, they know my number now and they just get me.
Oh, they work. Oh, yeah. How many things have you purchased off of Instagram? I gotta say, at least a dozen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever bought anything off of Facebook, maybe once.
No.
But like Instagram, I did 2 in one day, was almost going to do a third. And I was like, oh, hold on, double click, close the app. I'm like, so I'm like at the casino. I got to leave the casino here. Like, no.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. But it's, they show an ad and they sell so many pairs of shoes, or they send out an email to, 200,000 people and they sell, 200 pairs of shoes. Like it's kind of a one-to-one. I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch, but it's much more simplistic. Whereas the B2B sale is so complex and it's so interesting. And, I think B2B is where it's at personally.
And you got different people involved. Like if I want running shoes, I'm going to go get running shoes. I'm not going to consult with my boss and with like my family and my children. Kids, is it okay if I get shoes? Well, Dad, do you want the blue ones or the purple ones? No, I'm going to go buy the shoes that I like. Like I don't need to consult with a whole buying team, which is what you see in the B2B world. And I think
although you may have to ask your although you may have to ask your procurement team, if you're, your husband or your wife, if it's okay, you spend the money. But
for sure. You might have one stakeholder, but you don't have 4.
Right. No.
Unless you're in one of those countries where that's legal, in which case, I don't know.
Right.
Man, so
Cool.
you mentioned this on going to school. Who are you? Like, did you always want to be in marketing? Can you take us back to like little you days, little Jessica running through the fields? Like, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And what was it? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little town called Hales Corners, Wisconsin. It's about 10 minutes outside of Milwaukee.
Hales
And
Corners. Hales
Hales
Corner?
Corners. Hales
Oh,
Corners.
he has multiple corners. That Hale guy's, he's got it
Yes.
made.
Well, it was multiple brothers, and they owned the four corners of Hales Corners. About 7,000 people, pretty small. But yeah, so started out there. I went through 16. Did I finally count it up? 16 years of Jesuit education.
Wow. Oh, like
Starting
private school,
from
like Catholic
first
school or
grade.
something, or
Yep. First grade through high school. And then it's longer than that, 18 years, because it was first grade through high school. Then I went to Marquette University in downtown Milwaukee, which was Jesuit. And then I went to Santa Clara University for my MBA. All
surprised they didn't
Jesuit.
turn you into a nun by the end of all that.
I know. And now I'm a recovering Catholic. So,
Right.
it didn't really stick, but a great education. Jesuits are good at that. So
Have you enjoyed COVID and that now you have a reason to not go to church?
right. Yeah, that's why I'm not going to church, Mom and
Right.
Dad.
Right.
COVID. But yeah, so I started out there. I went to school for marketing and finance. I
Okay.
double majored in that. I originally was going to go for journalism. I was looking at all the biggest journalism schools, and it was
Nice.
Syracuse University, University of Minnesota, and Marquette were kind of the three biggies. By the time I got into Marquette and into school, I decided, I don't know, maybe I had a premonition that, journalism was going to become a tougher and tougher field with the death of newspapers and everything else. Although, I don't know. I mean, digital journalism is
Totally.
alive and well. But so anyways, so I passed on that and went the marketing and finance route. Got out of school.
Why
And
finance? Were you just like a number gal the whole time you're growing up? Counting your
um
piggy bank pennies and
yeah, a little bit, but it
yeah.
was more, everybody said if you just got a marketing degree, you're going to have to just sales. That was,
Oh,
you know, that's what I was hearing. So I was
yeah.
like, all right, I'll get the finance degree too, right? Kind of make, show me as a little bit more
Mm.
strategic, thoughtful, that kind of thing. I still, straight out of college, went into sales. I had a marketing internship for my last 2 years of college at a barcode labeling systems company called the Brady Corporation,
Wow.
based out of, it's just outside of Milwaukee. But anyways, and I was in marketing there, and they said, well, we like you. We want to bring you into marketing someday, but first you have to go into sales to understand, which was the most, honestly, I was not a great sales rep, but it taught me to understand sales and have an
Totally.
appreciation for the sales marketing connection. So it was great. I did not go back to that company because I had to move back to Milwaukee, and they had sent me to Northern California for my sales territory, basically
Wow.
San Francisco. I wasn't going back to Milwaukee. So, so yeah, so I left that company and went right into marketing. And actually my sales manager at the time said that, because I was making collateral that our marketing team should have been doing for us.
Right.
I was making it for my region. I had a little region and there were 8 of us in it. And so I was making the marketing collateral and sending it to all of them and stuff. And he's like, that's cool, but I need you to sell stuff. And I was like,
Right.
I don't really want to. So that took me I went to go marketing for one of our distributors because it was now an industry I knew.
Okay.
And then it
The
was
barcode
2000.
industry, right?
Yeah. Well, it was industrial sales.
Oh, okay.
Not
Yeah.
very sexy or exciting. But then it was around the year.
A lot of dudes and
Oh my God. Yeah.
cigars,
And I'm like
maybe.
a
I don't know.
22-year-old girl going into warehouses
That's
to
pretty
sell
badass though, and
barcode
you did
labeling
sales too,
systems.
so you really knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. It was challenging, but like I said, something I would never give up, even though at the
Right.
time I was like, oh, do I want to do this? Totally influenced my entire career as a marketer,
Wow.
for sure. So yeah, and then it was around the year 2000, .com bubble right? And so I had to go work for a startup, which was also great. I loved it. It was kind of the original voice and web conferencing provider. I don't know if you remember ever joining a Meeting Place call where they're like, "Welcome to Meeting Place." It was, it stuck around for a while. Cisco bought us eventually, but they also bought WebEx, which was our main competitor. So I'm not quite sure the wisdom there, but they did that. So unfortunately, Meeting Place went away. But I mean, we had voice and web, and we did whiteboarding and everything back in 2000.
Wow.
And I feel like video conference, it just took a really long time for it to catch on. And once again, now with COVID, that accelerated, and everybody's like, all right, I'll turn on my camera. You have to. So that was interesting. And that's where I first understood that I really liked working for a smaller company. It was a 200-person company when I went to go work for them. You just had so much more flexibility of like, I'm a person who, if I see a problem, I want to go fix it.
Yes.
I worked at some bigger companies in my career where I was like, ooh, that needs to be fixed. And they're like, yeah, so we don't really have the budget or the resources right now. So we'll look at that next year when we do next. I'm like,
we tried that 5 years ago.
Hated it. So I loved that. Then I took a little bit of a left at Albuquerque and went and did marketing for a women's sporting goods retailer.
Whoa, cool.
That was my one foray into B2C, which was interesting.
But I think that's important because we were just hating on B2C, but we can. I sold language learning software and a couple other things. So we're not just saying this out of left field B2C people. We've been to both places.
We've been there. We've done that, and we're moving on. And then I took another left at Albuquerque, and I actually went into the nonprofit sector for about 5 years. And I worked for a company called the Breast Cancer Fund. They're now the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. And they, everybody thinks of Susan G. Komen and like curing cancer. They were about preventing it in the first place, which was pretty awesome. And the environmental causes of it and those sorts of things.
Kind of makes sense, honestly. Let's just prevent it. Yeah.
Right. In the first place. It's a lot cheaper to do that.
I'm sure.
Right. So it was those guys. And then I went to go work for the National MS Society. And then for Equality California, right around the time when they were really, Gavin Newsom, started marrying gay couples in San Francisco before it was, had spread across the nation. I mean, it was a really exciting time. And so, all of those organizations, it was great I did fundraising. So I did, hosted events and, so kind of did field marketing for the nonprofit sector.
Yeah.
For
I might
5 years.
That fundraising for nonprofits, a little bit of like sales and marketing, right? You're doing the field thing and then trying to close them in on that check.
Yeah, and there was both sides of it. There was B2C, but then also B2B, trying to get corporate sponsorships and those sorts of things. So that was kind of like a little bit of two sides of my brain, plus a passion. You feel good about going to work every day when you work for a nonprofit, right?
100%.
You're helping solve real world problems. You're helping people who are impacted by, the diseases or, the bigotry or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
So that was really cool. And once again, something I would never give up for a million years was that experience in nonprofits. For sure.
Yep.
Then I went back into tech and I, worked for Adobe and Autodesk for about 5 years between the two. And then when I left Autodesk, I decided, I was like, okay, this marketing technology stuff is taking off.
Yeah.
And I just started researching, when I was at Autodesk, we didn't even have a marketing automation solution, right? Like I was like, right. So, so I just started, so I was feeling behind the times. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go out and research all these marketing automation solutions and just other MarTech vendors. And I stumbled on Demandbase. Wow. And kind of the rest was history, because I was like, ABM makes so much sense. And this comes from my experience as a sales rep. I'm like, oh my God, sales and marketing actually being aligned, not hating each other, not blaming each other. I'm like, wow, that's like the nirvana of B2B marketing. Yeah. And so I was sold. And so, I started there in partner marketing. I then built the field marketing function there. We were only an 8-person marketing team at the time. So built field marketing because I was like, hey, our sales and marketing teams aren't working together. And we're supposed to be the ABM company, right? So built that, and then, got into ABM education because it was like, the beginning of ABM, and everybody's like, what is it? So we taught them what it was, and then they're like, cool, how do I do it?
Right.
So then built 3 levels of ABM certification to really help people dig in and understand the how-to.
Love that. Yeah.
And then, March 2019, then launched the book. And
2019.
So that's 20 years. Yeah, 2019 launched the book.
Okay,
and then
so last
3 months
year.
later,
so it's been about a year now with the book out?
Yes. Yep.
How's that been? I just got mine out in January. How's it been for you to have you been promoting it left and right or doing that kind of stuff? Or
some honestly, and this is where I think prioritization of marketing is really tough, right? And what do you promote and when and those sorts of things. And once again, this is why being really intentional about the segmentation and the messaging you're putting out in the marketplace is so, so, so important. But we did promote the book. Absolutely. Did a bunch, I had never really done press before. So I got to do a bunch of press, got invited to speak at a bunch of conferences, which was cool. But it was, and I would love to hear your impression of writing a book, but man, that was a labor of love.
It's terrible, right? By the time you're trying to send it to the publisher, like you don't even want to look at it. Like, oh no, not again. I've already looked at that paragraph 9 times and I don't like it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like my CMO said, okay, you can stop doing everything else you're doing and focus on. I still had to do my day job. I remember one flight back from the UK where I proofread and, made changes on 10 chapters of the book. I just focused on it. One whole flight from the UK. I was like, all right, I'm just hammering this out.
That's amazing.
But yeah, by the time it went to print, I'm like, I can't anymore. I just can't.
Were they just refilling your coffee every time they went by?
Oh my God, I know. And it's like, I didn't realize how much of the proofreading and everything I was going to be responsible for. I thought the publisher would do some of that. But if there's typos in there, it's my fault because I didn't catch them. You know
what I found? Recently, my publisher hyphenated. I put my email address in the back of the book because I'm like, I don't want to be some hard to reach person. Email me, say hi.
Yeah.
Put my email address. But they hyphenated my email address. So it's Cheshire-newlineimpact.com. Like, guys, email addresses, that's a totally different email address. If you put a hyphen in it, you can't just hyphenate an email address. Come on. So you'd think publishers will just magically solve everything. It's and to your point, I approved the final thing, and because I couldn't stand to look at it anymore.
Yeah. So, but, once again, looking back when I was graduating college, did I ever think I'd write a book? Did I ever think I would be an expert and teaching other people how to do B2B marketing?
Wow.
Never in a million years. Right. And even when I came to demand base, I never thought that was going to be the trajectory. It just, once again, I saw a problem. People didn't understand what account-based marketing was. So how were our sales reps going to sell an account-based marketing solution? Right. So I was like, well, we got to solve that problem. And then great. Now that we've got people hooked on it, we got to teach them how to do it. And, it was kind of a natural evolution, but it was a wild ride, but I loved every minute of it.
Would you do another one?
Another book?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
just
definitely
yours. You have complete control and publisher just bends to your will.
Right. Honestly, if I was going to write one, it would be around customer marketing.
Interesting. Yeah,
and
I can see that.
Having been through this process, I think the second time around it would be easier. It's not going to be easy, but it would be easier. But just because I feel like there's so many kind of so much low-hanging fruit, and it's not, once again, just like ABM is not rocket science, customer marketing is not rocket science, but people need a blueprint. If people are going to change the way they've always done things, they need a blueprint, right?
Totally.
And that's it. And so that's what, the certification was, the book was. And I feel like the same thing needs to happen for customer marketing to really help people do it and do it right.
Well, I'll buy a copy. Not that that should motivate you to spend hundreds of hours toiling away, thankless hours. But one of the things that I did with my book, which was probably the only reason I got it done, was I spoke the book. I talked the book. So I prepped a whole bunch of notes and then would speak to the editor on a phone that's recorded and transcribed. And they turned that into some paragraphs. By the way, sometimes they were cheesy. And I still had to go back. I'm like, I would never say it. Oh, that's gross.
Right.
Rewrite. Make sure the voice is still there. But that made it a lot faster for me, because otherwise I'm going to try to perfect every sentence when I just need to get some things down first,
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I did the same thing. And that was really helpful. Plus we had the certifications already. So they went through all 3 levels of the certification to understand our tone of voice, our point of view, that kind of thing. So
sick.
Yeah, it was fun, but I was glad when it was over.
You should totally do it. I think that'd be fantastic. You're at home, COVID, nothing else to do. Just,
Right? I got a lot of thoughts up here. I might as well do something with them.
Just start recording memos on your phone and just go from there.
Exactly.
I have a question for you. So if you could go back in time, it's like a hypothetical perhaps, but I might have a time machine in New Hampshire. And let's say you come borrow it. After COVID, it's all safe. We wiped it down. Borrow the time machine, go back in time, and you get to meet yourself right after you graduated with the undergrad. What would you tell yourself? Would you give yourself any advice? Would you tell yourself to change anything or start anything? What would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, I think about this a lot, just because, I just went through my career trajectory, which is definitely not traditional.
Yeah.
Right. It was a little bit all over the board, but, I learned something from every job I had. And I think it's really important to take something away, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Like it's almost like dating, right? As you go through your career, understanding what you like and don't like about different jobs, right? Like it dawned on me very early that I needed to really be passionate about what I was selling or what I was marketing, right? Because barcode labeling systems
100%.
wasn't super awesome. Voice and web conferencing solution, I got excited about that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously the nonprofit, passionate about the different, organizations and their missions and those sorts of things. And so that became really important. Then it was understanding, okay, how important is culture to me? How important is the size of the company, right? So you start to narrow in on exactly what the right company is for you,
right,
that you want to go work for. So, and the other thing along the way is, especially if you stay kind of in the same industry, just don't burn any bridges. Like if you don't like people, that's going to happen. If you don't get along with them, whatever, but never burn a bridge, because they're going to come back around at some point, and either they're going to torpedo, if you're trying to get a job and somebody does a back channel, reference check, they're going to come up, or those sorts of things. And you just never know. And people who maybe you didn't align with 20 years ago, maybe you do now, right? So don't write them off, try and foster and keep good relationships all the way along the way.
Yeah. That email you want to send, you can write it, but write it in a notepad. Don't send it. Didn't Abraham Lincoln have like a desk full of like unsent letters, or maybe that was a rumor, but like,
I've heard that before.
He wanted to tell people off, as we all do, in his parchment, and it was just like, nope.
Well,
not going to send it.
And it's just crazy to me, because right now I'm consulting to a company, and the CMO is somebody I worked with at that first startup 20 years ago.
Oh.
When I was a 24-year-old, like I didn't know anything.
Crazy
right?
person. As we all are.
Right. Yeah. Right. But like, I built my career, he built his, and he was like, wow, okay, now she's got some value. Right. Yeah. And I'm sure I did at 24, right? I was doing good stuff, but, pretty immature in my career. And And so, 20 years later, now we're working together again, which is pretty awesome.
That's the story though, right? For people like, okay, you never know. it could come back around. Just be cool with people.
Right.
Like, you get fired, you get whatever, like, no big deal. Just you're on your best behavior.
Absolutely.
No
Absolutely.
telling people off on Twitter or
No.
crazy things like that. But yeah, the dating metaphor, what you like and what you don't like, it's so important to figure out. What you said, size of company, but like, what kind of what kind too? Do I want to do SEO all day? Do I want to do a little bit of everything, or focus on
Right.
email, B2B, B2C? What's my like? And then and then you keep refining, right? Instead of, we all say, oh, tall, dark, handsome, we want to go work for Google. You probably don't want to work for Google. Maybe you do.
Right.
But there's in the culture. Is culture important to you? I think it's probably important to everyone. They just don't necessarily know if it's culture or not that they're interacting with,
Yeah. Well, and also understanding what's your end game, right?
Yeah,
Like,
your
do
end
you
game.
want to be a specialist and just do that thing really well and go up to the highest ranks in that one thing, like marketing operations? Do you want to be an SVP of marketing operations at a Fortune 500 company?
Got it. Yep.
Cool. Or do you want to be a CMO? Because then you have to figure out, like, okay, to your point, like, if I want to be a CMO, I have to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And that's tricky because nobody's going to hire you for SEO if you've never done SEO before. Right. So it's navigating within the same company sometimes.
Right.
That's going to help get you there. But yeah, that's also kind of important to understand.
For sure. And the smaller companies are like, yeah, sure, do SEO. Like, I don't care. Like,
right.
Whatever. And it's like, cool, I've done SEO now. I've done AdWords. Trying things. Do go on some dates. Don't just think the very first company.
Yeah.
I guess you don't have to get married to your first company. You're not tied to them, but like, definitely experience. And that's where your internships really came in handy. And I still your sales experience. I'm so happy you had that, because you're right. That just forever opened up you could become the ABM person, having been in that seat. And without it, you would only guess.
Yeah. Well, and then, having the year in customer experience as well. Once again, nobody was going to hire me to do customer experience at a new company, but they were like, hey, you get ABM. All of our customers want to understand ABM. So can you build a post-sales org that is a team of ABM experts? Right. And then that gave me a new appreciation for the post-sales experience and what works and what doesn't, and why customer marketing is so important for it. So
you totally got to write that.
I know. I wouldn't give up any of those experiences for $1 million.
Oh, for sure. But now you are starting a nonprofit, I hear.
I am. Yeah. So, given kind of some of my past experience, I mean, I was a Girl Scout all the way through high school.
Nice.
I know, which is a little odd.
I was a Boy Scout. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I had a really super cool troop leader, and back then all the badges were like cooking breakfast, sewing, like all these things, like totally terrible. And she had the foresight, and she made us get out into nature, get out into the environment. I went to a Girl Scout camp every summer. And after we turned 12, we showed up before everybody else did, and we fixed the camp. We dug ditches. We did, all sorts of stuff to help with erosion and those sorts of things, which was just so much more that Girl Scouts could be, and it's getting there now. But, I had that background. Then I went to go work for, that environmental nonprofit and those sorts of things. And so, now starting this nonprofit called the Green Girl Project. Here in Truckee, we're going to start small, working with Truckee High to get high school girls to really think about the environment, and in connection with kind of, the STEM initiative for women, right? Getting girls into science, technology, engineering, and math, and leveraging those skills to help solve environmental problems here in Lake Tahoe. I mean, I'm sure most people have heard the moniker of keep Tahoe blue is a big thing here.
No, what's that about?
So Lake Tahoe is a gigantic lake. I think it's 22 miles by 12 miles.
Wow.
Somebody should probably correct me on that, but it's large, and it is crystal clear blue. It is beautiful. And the Lake Tahoe area has done so much work to keep it that way, right? I just went past a line of 200 boats this morning, all having to be
What?
inspected before they can go on the lake to make sure they don't have any mussels or any, any mold, any whatever happens in the ocean or, other lakes.
Yeah.
They have to be pristine before they can go in the Lake Tahoe.
Oh,
So
good.
there's things like that. There's a river that goes through here. There's, land reclamation projects. There's all sorts of stuff. And so, working with these girls to, use the STEM disciplines to help solve environmental projects. They're going to propose the projects to us. We'll partner them with local nonprofits and then fund the projects, right? So they get leadership skills out of it. It's going to look great on their transcripts, right? To go, for college and those sorts of things. And,
Great essay
help
topic.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And help them realize that they can have a greater impact than they ever thought possible. And, doing that through mentorship, right? Because who's ever gotten to where they are today without people who have influenced them and their careers, right?
100%.
And, oftentimes parents aren't the right people to be that. They're there, they're encouraging, they push you, but sometimes you need somebody outside the family to really be that mentor, to really open your eyes to what's possible. And so that's what we're hoping to do here.
Wow. I love the tie into STEM too, because I think there's a lot of talk, and talk's, I guess, a first step, but when you tie it into like, what do we actually need to do to make sure that this outcome is true? Nothing like getting the maths and the sciences and just some facts involved so we can make some changes, and make some things happen. That's cool.
Yeah. So, that's my quarantine project. That and digging the 12 by 14 foot hole in my backyard. That was the other one.
Tell me about that. That's like a mini Lake Tahoe. I think that's the exact same measurements you gave me for Tahoe.
Right.
In your backyard.
It felt that way. And it took about 4 weeks to do, because my whole backyard is on a slope. So it was, a 3-inch hole at one end and a 2-foot hole at the other.
So what, pour concrete or like what?
Well, so, it's a patio, so you want it to be level, right?
Okay,
so I had to, dig out a level platform and then do all the steps of laying down sand and crushed gravel and then the pavers and, the whole shebang, and then build a retaining wall around the whole thing to make sure the ground doesn't fall in on it. So, thank you for YouTube and, all the instructional videos. Everybody's like, did you know how to do that? I'm like, no, but you can easily find kind of step-by-step on the internet. So
right. I love that. The first time I ever changed a tire on my road bike was at the side of the road with YouTube up, going like, how do I get this thing off the rim? Like, I don't even, so I'm just watching this YouTube, use these things and click, click, click. And like, oh, thank you.
You're like, oh, that's what these levers are for.
Yes.
No. Okay.
Exactly. You have to send me a picture of that patio. Is it done or are you still working on it?
It is done. It is done. No, it's done. It's got furniture on it. I got a nice umbrella so you can use it kind of all day long.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a nice little living space for sure.
And you have one of those like amazing views in the back, like the mountain.
Yeah, there's not much behind us. That's kind of the rest of the summer is doing more landscaping and stuff to beautify, because all of a sudden we built this patio and you look back on our deck and now you can see under the deck. And I'm like, well, I don't want to see under the deck. So now we have to plant bushes along there so you can't see under the deck. Like,
yeah, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, like, okay, now we got to do a yard project. And now we're staring at the yard 24/7 now. So we have to, wow.
Yeah. So
crazy.
It's fun working with my hands.
It is. I did some work in the back recently where I was trimming some lower branches of some pine trees that didn't need them anymore. I was like, this is not functioning branch anymore. And when I did that, it kind of opened up the view and you could see more of the forest, get rid of some of the dead stuff and clear that out.
Yeah.
Let fresh stuff come in. And suddenly it just looks like that much bigger of a yard and a forest. But it felt good to get your hands all sappy and, get the cuts in your shins and, just feel like you worked hard that day.
Oh yeah. I still have scars from some of the bushes I removed. So that was,
tell me about it. Yeah. Crazy. Well, hey, where can people connect with you? Where do you want them to go seek you out and find you?
Yeah, I think really the best place is on LinkedIn. I have the distinction of being the only Jessica Fewless on LinkedIn. So you can't miss me.
Nice.
But also, I mean, I don't mind sharing my email address, which is true to me, which is polepetalpaddlegirl@gmail.com.
Say
Pole
that
for
again.
ski.
Pedal.
Pole pedal paddle girl at Gmail, and it's ski pole, right? Ski pole.
Yep.
Pedal a bike, and paddle a stand-up paddleboard. So pole pedal paddle.
Actually, I really like that. I really like that.
People were like, you should have a more professional email address. I'm like, you know what? It's a conversation starter, so I'm keeping it.
And once you get a sense for what they are, you'll never forget it.
Right.
For sure.
It's long to spell out when you're trying to tell somebody it over the phone, but you know, once they have it, it's all good.
Right. Well, I could see. Could you squeeze it into a license plate? That'd be kind of cool. Like PO,
I know, wouldn't it though?
PDL. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have the same magic.
Yeah, it might lose something in translation.
Right. Pull, pedal, paddle. Yeah. People would be trying to guess what it is as you drive by, and they're like,
yeah, I'd cause accidents. It would be terrible.
Right. Yeah, you're right. They hit you because
distracted driving.
They're trying to decode your license plate. Oh man, so crazy. Well, the book too, right? Is the book you can get that at Demand Base? Is it on Amazon as well?
It is on Amazon. You can also find it off the Demand Base website because it was, you know, a joint venture between my CEO, CMO, and myself. On the Demand Base. But yes, definitely you can just find it on Amazon.com. And, you know, if you buy it, leave a review.
Yes, those reviews are money.
They're so helpful.
Yeah, true friends leave reviews, people.
Exactly.
I've got a book too, everyone. Wink, wink.
Yes, please. Everybody should get that one as well. Right. I think we should start a top 10 list of the most important books that all of your guests have written, because obviously, I mean, yourself, Christopher, who we talked about earlier, myself, I'm sure there's
your book,
one or two others that have written books. So
yeah, it's true. I actually
should start a reading club.
I've been remiss having not done that yet. I should get on that right away. That's a good one. You're right. I have to go back through that. But yeah, there's some good stuff out there. Thank you so much for being on here. This has been fun. I hope we can chat again some other time. Just catch up on where you're at with your next book. Maybe when that comes out. Before that. Otherwise, I'll never talk to you. I'll talk to you like 2 years or I don't know.
Right. Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun. So I appreciate it.
It was. And for those listening, having fun along with us, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. See, I ran out of space in here. I had to write. Then share this with someone, right? Be a thought leader. That's how you be a thought leader. And you share this. LinkedIn's a great place for it, but put your takeaways in the top. My key takeaway was X. My 1 takeaway, my 3 takeaways. There's so much we talked about in the ICP, being intentional, the pyramid. There's so many things, the intent data, how to balance that with ABM. So much stuff here. Put what you learned, share it, tag people. We'll reshare it. That's how you're a thought leader. To 4 people, 19 people, 76 people, whatever you want to do. Just get that information out there, be a thought leader. And again, this has been so much fun. Jessica, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. For those listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We'll catch y'all next time.